Hello everyone, welcome to Never Stop Growing. I'm Jonathan Harrigan. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through 5 steps to drawing a realistic looking animal with fur. So for today's video, we're going to be using this picture as my reference photo. I got this picture from Pexels.com, which is a royalty-free website, so it's really great for if you are using pictures that you have not taken yourself, or if you're needing pictures as an artist. So with that being said, and without further ado, let's jump into drawing this picture of the dog. So the first step when drawing an animal with fur is the same step as pretty much drawing anything else, and that is to draw the general shape, or to get the general shape of the animal or object that you are drawing. So I do this by mapping out or marking out the middle lines on the image, and also the lines that are at the fourth marks. And I use these to get and determine whether my proportions are correct or not. So I'll use these kind of as guide marks to figure out where certain things should be, like the nose or the mouth, or how high the head should be, or how low the chin should be, things like that. So that is the very first step, is you want to get your basic shapes down. You want to get the kind of general shape down, nothing too specific or too detailed, but just like the general shapes correct. Because if you don't get these correct, everything else pretty much won't fall into line. Okay, so once you have gotten the general shapes down, the second step is to start dividing your image into sections, so specifically the fur into sections, to make it a little bit easier to distinguish where the values are going to go, and to give it kind of the texture that it needs to have. So what I like to do is I like to start by determining kind of the bigger shapes, like the bigger fur shapes or the jagged shapes that define the fur, or the ones that I feel are the most important, because I believe that if you kind of figure those out, you don't have to get 100% every single one of those little like details in to make it look believable to the viewer. So as long as you get kind of the main ones or the big ones in, or at least start at that spot, the other ones will kind of fall into place a little bit more. Okay, so the third step after you have put in your general shapes and you have divided it into sections is to start adding your value. And what you want to do is you want to start with your darkest shapes first, and kind of give yourself a reference to start with. Also remember that you can always go darker, so don't be afraid to start out a little bit light and then build up your values. Okay, the other thing that will really help here is, or at least that I found that really helped, was adding layers to this. So if you start with a really light value when you're coming in, and you're shading a certain section and you need to go back over it and make it darker, it actually helps and adds to the overall look of the fur to have those two values kind of working together. So don't be afraid. Make sure that you're building up your values. Make sure you're building up your layers, and you're starting out slow and light with that. And at this point, it's probably worth saying that you should be referencing your photo a lot during these stages, probably throughout the whole thing really, but specifically during this stage of trying to figure out your values, is come back to what it looks like in your photo, because there may be some adjustments that you need to make at this point that you missed earlier on in some of the other stages. Okay, so obviously I've sped this part up, and during this stage I'm just trying to map out as many of the values as I can and coming back over them and building up my layers. But once you have done that and you've added in the majority of your shadows and you're starting to build up your layers, you want to start to think about your background. So the fourth step is to begin to add in your background. And the benefit of this is that your background helps you kind of determine how dark some of the values should be in your object. So all you're doing here for the background is you're trying as much as possible, or at least I'm trying as much as possible to match the values. I'm not really trying to match what is in the background. I'm not trying to draw like the hallway or anything, or whatever's behind this dog. I'm just trying to match the values, because those values are very important to figure out kind of how light or dark some of the features should be on the face or around the neck. So after I have tacked those shadows in on the outside, I come back and I work out the shadows inside the fur, the rest of the shadows, or the rest of the values, and then I go back and I put in and finalize the shadows in the background and around the outside. And again, I'm just kind of trying to get the general shape. I'm not trying to get, or the general value. I'm not trying to get the specific shape, but mostly just trying to match whatever's around the dog itself. Okay, so this brings us to our fifth and final step. Once you have put in the background shadows, and you've put in your values, your primary values for your fur, what you need to do is come back through and make sure that all of your darkest values are dark enough. So come back through and make sure that they're really dark, those places that need to get darker. Do that, but also then come back with an eraser and make sure that your highlights are also bright. So this is a time where if something went a little too dark, you can come back and pull it up, but you can also take your eraser and kind of soften some of the places that need to be softened, that seem like they're a little bit harsh. So there you have it. That is the final product. Here's a side-by-side comparison to see how they look. I think it turned out pretty good. If you liked this video, or you felt like it was useful, or you learned something, make sure you give us a like. That helps us out a ton. And then also subscribe for more content like this one. Keep at it, never stop growing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.